Hey, how about another lesson? Okay, so have you ever noticed maybe that your jazz lines don't sound particularly jazzy, as it were? Um, it's probably because you're not using the altered scale on dominant chords in particular. And without getting too much into what the altered scale is just yet, um, in the bebop jazz language, often we use the altered scale on dominant chords, so like in a 2-5-1. So D minor 7 to G7 to C7, or C major 7. So D minor 7, G7 to C major 7. Now you might think, okay, well D minor 7, G7, and C major 7 are all on the C major scale. And I think this is what happens a lot of times. People think, oh, that's going to sound pretty good because those are all on those chords. So I could just play. Just stay in C major the whole time and I'm going to be right. The problem is you don't hear the line moving through. You don't hear the chords changing when you're playing. There's a couple of reasons for that, but we're going to hone in on this one that's a scalar concept. So what does this mean? So instead of playing D Dorian, G Mixolydian, C major, or C Ionian, or just all C major, we're going to play on the D minor, we'll play D Dorian to G altered scale to the C Ionian again. And by doing that, you're going to actually hear the changes. So first I'll play 8 notes on each chord, just so you get some time to hear it. I'll do it just playing it with staying on C major, and you're going to hear, okay, so right. So that's just staying in C major, right? But starting on the D, because that's the note to start on. Well, what if I go to the altered scale on that second chord? So going up D Dorian, then coming down the altered scale. So it instantly sounds, well, that sounds a very interesting line. Or it doesn't really matter where you start. Right. Get that sound. Right. You know, it doesn't have to be all eighth notes. Notice how you can hear the chord changes. But if I just played all in C major, you really wouldn't be able to hear it as well. And there's sort of ways you can get around it, but by playing strong notes and strong beats. But really, for that jazz sound, what you've heard as jazz, that's the sound you're looking for. You gotta spend the year or years, decades, getting the altered scale stuff just sorted out. And when I say scale, I don't mean to just imply plain scale. Scalarly, however you say that. I mean taking all the harmony and stuff that comes with it too. Just like in a C major scale, there's, C major 7, D minor 7, etc. In a altered scale, you have fully diminished chords, half diminished chords, and then minor major 7th chords and stuff that. So like if it was a G, you have the D half diminished or G half diminished, A flat. Minor major 7, etc., etc. You can use those chords as substitutions and stuff too as you're using. So you want to know the harmony, get it all under your fingers as well. And so what's a good way to even just start tackling this thing if you haven't done it before, and even if you have, to restart tackling it? It's just try 2 different things I would suggest. Either play 4 notes per chord or 8 notes per chord, which is pretty typical in jazz forms anyway. You just do this so take like a D minor 7 to G altered to C, and you're gonna go up the one and down the other, right, and then back up. So if you did 4 notes, so we going up the D minor 7, then coming down altered, right, and then start on the next note, start on E, start on F, right, and G. Yeah. Notice how you can hear those changes happening on those chords. Or you could do it 8 notes. Right. And then eventually you want to get into, doing sort of like, these different kind of arpeggios and stuff within the scale as well. But I'm going to leave you at that. I'm working on all cylinders today, obviously. So I know this video could probably have been more succinct or whatever, but hopefully it's helpful. Hopefully it made some sense. So get in your fingers, get in your ear in particular, that sound, that altered sound. So dominant chords, using that. And actually what's great about the dominant or the altered scale is that it really sounds like all the notes sound good. There's no note where you're like, oh, don't ever land on that note in that chord because it'll sound wrong. Because it doesn't work like that. It actually sounds great, especially as long as it's going where it's supposed to go next. So yeah, work it out. Good luck. I hope that you learned something there. And I guess one side note, I know you can say, well, what about diminished and whole tone and augmented scale and all kinds of other tritone substitutions? Why don't I need to work on those too. Of course, those are all great sounds, and they're important to learn. I think it's in particular for like the jazz sort of sound, the altered scale is really like where that sound comes from. And you just got to spend the time, get it under your hands and ears. And I would say try to just focus on it. Just do it. Spend literally a year. Just say, for a year, I'm going to work on this. Just accept it. Make it a primary part of your practice to get it under your fingers and your ears and etc. And you can there's other ways to use melodic minor scales other than the altered scale, but it's a really important one. So good luck, and I'll talk to you soon.